Hi, I'm John Piper, independent candidate for the United States Senate from Indiana. Today we're going to shoot the second part of our video. We're going to focus on I-69. Mike Pence, the head swamp rat in Washington, this is his little baby. This is how he's paid for all his congressional campaigns and his gubernatorial campaign, by taking bribe money / contributions from all the asphalt, concrete, steel, bridge builders, and labor unions. Let's remember what we did last time. Talked about Mount Hushmore, human trafficking, molesters, rapists. George Washington of Mount Hushmore. It took a whistleblower to stop all these horrific people. Power corrupts. George Washington of all these horrible people. That's what we're doing today. That's why I want to be your United States Senator. No one else is willing to talk about these things. We have to stop I-69. It's $6 billion. Pure corruption. Just a little refresher. There's two highways that Mike Pence wants to tear out, 37 and 465. A total of 12 years of construction, a total of $6 billion. The two highways already exist. They're in perfectly good shape. At the end, we're going to talk about what we should do instead. Our previous governor before Mike Pence was Mitch Daniels. He was Ronald Reagan's economic brain. Mitch Daniels said we should do what every other major city did and put a secondary loop around our city. Our city should grow out. No major city in America today grows inward, not in 2018. So we're going to describe why Mike Pence has to build this highway, because he's got to pay back a lot of people. So we're going to come back to the swamp here. By the way, corruption doesn't just start and end with Mike Pence. Let's remember, Spiro Agnew was fired by Richard Nixon for stealing $29,000 from his own campaign. Let's not forget, Mike Pence did the same thing. He took thousands of dollars for his first campaign, paid off his wife's car, paid his mortgage, paid his credit cards, paid his golf debt. His campaign for the first congressional run, he lost by 18 points. He was proven to be nothing but a thief and a liar. He said he had a right to make a living. He said it wasn't illegal at the time. It was absolutely immoral and absolutely dishonest. I have never taken a penny from anybody. I pay for everything myself, so there's no questions. He's a liar and a thief. I am not. Let's go on. Let's talk about Mr. Pence. I-69. It is my humble opinion, I-69 is Indiana's Obamacare. Now you're saying, what do you mean by that? Obamacare, as we know, was supposed to be $800 billion for 10 years. Now it's $2.6 trillion. Trillion dollars. Why? The insurance companies and the hospitals all of a sudden didn't have just a few people. They had everybody that was paying in. Of course, we know the young people didn't want to pay. We know the middle class and the upper class couldn't pay. It turned out to be nothing but a sham to make money for rich people. That's why I say I-69 is Indiana's Obamacare. Why is Mike Pence pushing I-69? Pence is paying off old campaign debts, same old corruption. The people who paid for his first campaigns, asphalt companies, concrete companies, steel companies, bridge builders, labor unions, they all gave money to the Republican Party and to Pence. He got to take out what he wanted. Now he's got to pay it back. The big thing here is Mike Pence, for 13 years while he was congressman and governor, would not allow two counties, Johnson County and Morgan County, to issue building permits. So the property down here, with the exception of a CVS and My Angel Animal Hospital, were the only two things allowed to be built, and he even tried to stop us. After we wait 13 years with no building permits, it's now going to be 6 years for the construction of this highway. They say once the highway is complete, we're going to have all these giant corporations coming down. If they do, they've got to put on all their own exits at their own expense. They've got to put in all the sewer systems, all the water lines. They've got to build all the roads. They're going to want tax breaks. So the point I'm making, it's going to be approximately 29 years with no economic benefit for Indiana. Also, Mike Pence can pay back his political friends for I-69. We need to do what Mitch Daniels said. My man Mitch, put the secondary loop in. We should not allow Indiana to suffer anymore. Just a little refresher. Where we are in Greenwood, Indiana, our police department only has 60% of the officers required. Our teachers haven't had raises. Our taxes are going up. Why? We don't have any buildings. We don't have any commercial properties along a highway that has 85,000 cars a day. Let's not forget the purpose of 69. It's the Bill Clinton NAFTA highway. It's estimated we're going to have 100,000 cars and trucks more per day going up and down this 37 and then on 465, which is already a disaster before 100,000 new cars. That's why we should do what Mitch Daniels said, put the secondary loop in, alleviate the traffic there, give everybody a clear path from Evansville to Fort Wayne or Fort Wayne to Evansville. We should not be paying off Mike Pence's old debts. What Bill Clinton signed into law in 1993 is no longer relevant to the world of 2018. Mr. Trump, Mr. President, you of all people should know. If we can't make a profit on it, we shouldn't be doing it. And we shouldn't be paying off old people's debts. This right here has already lost us 1,000 jobs. 1,000 jobs have already been gone. You're saying, John, how did we lose 1,000 jobs? Just north of my hospital, St. Francis was supposed to build their hospital. 200 doctors, nurses, radiologists, technicians, and staff. Just south of us, we were supposed to have a Walmart and a Sam's and a giant apartment complex. Right here, I'm going to get close to the camera, is the office park that was supposed to be next to St. Francis. 11 commercial spots have not been filled. McDonald's, Starbucks, Mike's Car Wash, doctor's offices, OBGYNs, dentists, all that not allowed. Pence would not allow any building permits. So you're saying why? Why wouldn't Pence allow anybody to build? Because the state of Indiana didn't want anybody here so they could take the land under eminent domain for pennies on the dollar. We're going to explain that as we go down the road here. Just a little quick brief, if I don't knock this down here. This is the highway in question. It's future I-69, starting in Evansville to Martinsville, coming up. This secondary loop is what my man Mitch suggested we do. Right out here, it's all cornfields, soybean fields. This right here is the secondary, or the first loop he wants to tear out. It's already filled with businesses. It is the economic cash cow of Indiana. Mike Pence wants to tear that out, make it 5 lanes on both sides. Mike Pence wants our community to grow inward. He wants Indianapolis to grow in. That's insanity. All major cities grow out. Houston is in the process of putting in their 3rd loop. San Antonio has a secondary loop. It's $10 billion. They have SeaWorld. They have Fiesta, Texas, a theme park. They have water parks. They have Bass Pro Shops. They have a PGA golf course. The list goes on. It's magnificent. They thought about the future. They didn't put everything in downtown. We'll get to more of this in a little bit. But this is what we should do. This is what our great former governor suggested we do. But remember, it's a Bill Clinton, Mike Pence, NAFTA highway. $6 billion of swamp corruption. Set that to the side for just a second there. So we've gone through that. We know that I-69 is Obamacare. Lost jobs, lost taxes, higher taxes. We just had a huge gas tax. Did it help us? They're saying that we're going to use the gas tax to build the $6 billion worth of roads. We can't even fill the potholes. We can't replace the bridges. Indiana has over 90 bridges that are over 80 years old. The average life of a bridge is 70 years. So we've already got several $1 billion worth of bridges that need to be rebuilt. We don't need to tear out perfectly good highways that already exist just to put in new highways so that Pence could put his name on them and pay back all his old buddies. That's what Pence wants. Sorry, Mike, we're not going to let you get away with it. Let's take a second and look at Mike Pence's record. Mike Pence's record, he was congressman for 12 years. He was a governor for 4 years. 16 years of corruption and failure. So let's see, how did Mike Pence do? In 16 years, is our crime up or down? Our crime is way up. How about our drugs? More people dying than you can possibly imagine. We talked about it in the previous one. Our murder rate every single year goes up. Why? Because of the drugs. Child prostitution, we pointed that out in the last video. It's off the chart. Human trafficking, people being bought and sold here in Indiana. Who would have thought it? Illegal aliens, we've already gone through that. Every city has a problem with it. It's getting worse and worse. Are our roads any better because of Mike Pence? They're way down. They're terrible. Are our schools any better because of Mike Pence? No. We had 2 school districts in Indiana declare bankruptcy last year. We've closed multiple schools. Why? The same reason we can't afford police officers. The same reason we can't give teachers raises. We haven't built any roads. Mike Pence wants to close down 2 roads. Can you imagine the economics of closing 2 major roads to try to wait 12 years to build new ones? We're going to be looking at 29 years 10 years where these guys aren't going to pay any taxes because they got to put in all their own roads to get to their business, plus all the sewers, plus all the electricity. This is madness. Let me move this a little bit more out of the way here. What is truly the cost of I-69? $2 billion for 37, which is the highway right out here in front of our hospital. It's approximately 6 years to build that highway. We're looking at $4 billion in today's money, according to my sources. It's going to take 6 years to build that. Now, on a positive note, the federal government will pay 80% of the construction cost, and the Hoosiers will have to pay 20%. So you're saying, John, that's really not a bad idea. The feds are going to pay 80%, we've only got to pay 20%. That's not the big deal. The big deal is this. However, Hoosiers have to pay 100% of all the land costs, the homes, and the buildings, and the relocation costs. Pence deliberately wouldn't allow any building permits so he could come in and buy all the land and all the homes and all the businesses for pennies on the dollar. You don't allow buildings to come in. You allow it to stay corn and soybean and deserted land. Nobody's allowed to develop their own land. By the way, this is America. It's yours. You can do what you want with it. Not according to Mike Pence. He told INDOT, Indiana Department of Transportation, time and time again, do not allow anybody to have building permits. INDOT told the two counties, Johnson County and Morgan County, no building permits, no buildings. No buildings, property values fall, which means the state can use eminent domain and come in and take the property. That's a violation of the RICO Act. That is felony fraud and theft of property. Let's have a little history lesson here. When Donald Trump was running for the presidency, Donald Trump was accused by ESPN and many others for going in and stealing people's property to build golf courses and resorts. Donald Trump very boldly leaned forward and said, I gave them 200% of market value. Mike Pence is doing the opposite. Mike Pence is using felony fraud tactics to determine what the true value of property is and steal the property on our eminent domain. He would not, for 13 years, allow anybody to develop their commercial properties. That's a crime. It's a violation of the RICO Act. This was passed in 1970 and signed into law by Richard Nixon. It basically started out as a law to go after organized crime figures, but it has been expanded to go after politicians, judges, others. And fundamentally it says, if you are a person of authority and you order your subordinates to commit felonies on your behalf, you are guilty of those felonies. The Bible talks about it. Our even laws talk about it. Mike Pence didn't care. Not the man you thought he was, huh? Mike Pence ordered INDOT not to allow any building on Highway 37 and 69. If you don't believe me, get in your car. Start in Indianapolis, get to County Line Road in Johnson County, go all the way to Martinsville. Show me all the brand new buildings. There's 85,000 cars a day going by. There's 9 exits. You could have put Walmarts down here galore. You could have put St. Francis Hospital, MedChecks, all these wonderful things. Not one thing has been allowed to be built. How do I know Walmart was supposed to build down there? I tried to buy the property. Instead of putting my hospital where it's currently located, I called Bruce Richardson, my real estate agent, and I said, hey, you know the owner down there. I said, would you call him and see if he'll take 2 acres out and give it to me? Sell it to me. He got back to me and says, nope, Walmart's got a contract. They want the whole thing. They don't want to subdivide. Fair enough. Walmart's the big guy on the block. So we moved our project up here. So anybody tells you they weren't going to put Walmart down there, they're full of garbage. I tried to buy the property. Eminent domain was used in a felony fashion. They've already done it. We've already had a guy up the street named Will Osgood. He owned a catering and a restaurant business called Piper's. No relation to me whatsoever. He was just bought out by INDOT for 25 cents on the dollar. They really stuck it to him. He used a lot of bad language. It had to go to court. It was horrible. He hadn't paid his property taxes. He was a little behind, and they used that against him. Why? They wanted that property. They wanted to set the tone. This is what buildings like that are worth. It's approximately the same size of my building. Sorry, Mike, you're not going to get away with it. Jeff Sessions is going to be made aware of this. We are going to D.C. We are taking all of our evidence. We're going to sit down with the Attorney General of the United States. If Chris Christie went through the hell he did because of Bridgegate, we're going to see to it that Mike Pence faces the full wrath of the United States government. This is unacceptable. We're going to move this just one more second here. And we're going to talk about the lies. Mike Pence's lies and the truth about 69. Some interesting things going on here. Our current governor ordered INDOT, Indiana Department of Transportation, to go out and tell everybody in Indiana it was going to cost $1.5 billion to go from, if we can move the camera, from Martinsville to 465. $1.5 billion, just that right there. The truth is, according to our sources, it's going to be over $2 billion. Now you're saying, John, what are your sources? Taxpayers. You know who these taxpayers are? They're my clients here at my hospital. You're saying, what do you mean? We're only 8 miles from the Capitol. Most of the people that work for the government, work for INDOT, work for the governor, they live down here in Greenwood and Center Grove. And they bring their pets to me. And they pay taxes. And they got to put their kids through college. And they got to keep their parents in their home. They have the same burdens that the rest of us have. And they're furious with the government corruption and the theft and the payoffs to Mike Pence's corrupt friends. And they tell me about it. That's one of the reasons I'm running for your United States Senate. Because enough people have said they won't do anything about it. We need somebody new. So here I am. $1.5 billion, we know it's going to cost $2 billion. We need an investigation to find out who's telling the truth, and here's why. INDOT had 3 final meetings. They had one at Martinsville High School, one at Southport High School, and one at Center Grove High School. At each meeting, it only lasted an hour, they said that it was going to cost $1.5 billion. At the second meeting, I was sitting next to State Representative David Frizzell. He's been in the House here in Indiana for 25 years. I looked at him and said, David, you've got $1.5 billion already set aside? They say you do. I said, you know what that project's going to cost? He dropped his head and he goes, no. I said, what are they talking about? He goes, I have no idea what they're talking about. I said, can we find out? He goes, I will call the governor and I will find out. 3 days later, he called me back. By the way, I went to all 3 of those INDOT meetings. Dave Frizzell called me back 3 days later and he said, John, I just talked to Joe Eisner, one of Governor Holcomb's top people. He said, don't worry, it's not 1.5, it's 1.2. I said, David, we don't have the money. We don't even know who the contractors are. And they're already saying it's $300 million less. $300 is already missing. The first part of this I-69 project from Evansville up to Martinsville is already $360 million over budget in 3 years behind schedule. So we know INDOT's lying. It's not 1.5. According to the governor and his people, it's 1.2. So $300 million is missing. So the point I'm trying to make here, either the governor lied to the people of Indiana and had INDOT do it, or the governor lied to the Indiana House. We need an investigation to find out, is this money really there? What is the actual cost of it? Is it $2 billion, or is it 1.5, or is it 1.2? We can't have another project 3 years over and $360 million over budget. It's all corruption. It's all dishonesty. Let's talk about this. 94,000 jobs created. We've already lost 1,000, so we know that's a bunch of garbage. We're going to move the camera over here. We're going to get rid of our top swamp rat, Mikey Pence, here for just a minute. And we're going to look at this. I took this as a screenshot. It's kind of hard to read. I hope you can. We're going to have this on our website. But it was important that you see not something I produced, but something INDOT produced, something that Mike Pence ordered INDOT to put on their website. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, 47,000 jobs are created for every $1 billion invested in roads. So we're going to build this highway. We're going to spend $2 billion from Martinsville to Indianapolis, which means from Martinsville to Indianapolis, we should have 94,000 jobs. Really? That's propaganda. That's total lies. I own one of the biggest animal hospitals in the entire state of Indiana, and I employ 28 doctors, nurses, and technicians. Where are you going to come up with 94,000 jobs? Are they telling us, well, that's across the states? So Kentucky, we're going to spend our money to build businesses in Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois? No. Right here they say it will generate 4,600 additional jobs. Hey, keep in mind we've already lost 1,000 jobs over the last 13 years because Pence won't allow anybody to build. There's no way, 4,600. Oh, and that's by 2025. It's 2018 right now. We're 3 years before they get here, and then it's another 6 years. What does that tell you? Maybe 27, 28 will actually have a highway that's ready for somebody to get permits another 2 years, and then 10 years after they build their own roads before they're paying 1 penny to help our community. This is nothing but garbage and lies. Why did they put it up there? Because politicians get away with it. Why? Because they're swamp rats. Nobody fights them on it. It's pathetic. They also said initially that 37 completes I-69. Well, guess what? I was mad enough one day, I called a special meeting. State Representative Frizzell took me up to the governor, or to the Capitol, and I sat down with Joe McGinnis. Joe McGinnis runs INDOT. And I got him to admit that yes, once 37 was complete, they're going to do 465. I want everybody to take a deep breath and think of what that means. We're going to have 465. It's going to go down to 1 lane for 4 to 5 years, and it's going to cost maybe 6 years, and it's going to cost $4 billion to build. That is the gravy. That is the moneymaker for Indianapolis, for UPS, for FedEx, for all of our construction. We're known as the crossroads of America for the trucking industry. And we're going to take 465, we're going to put 100,000 cars and trucks more on it, and we're going to take it down to 1 lane for 6 years of construction. Somebody stop me. I mean, this is madness. They haven't told you about it yet because of how stupid and ridiculous it is. But why do they think they can get away with it? Because Mike Pence has to pay back his political donors. We can't allow it. The trucking companies say they need this. That's what Mike Pence told us. It's on that chart right there. Every trucking company, every logistics company said that's madness. Donald Trump, you're always bragging on TV that you know the richest owners of all the biggest trucking companies in America. Maybe we need to sit down and see what the trucking companies want. Because all the trucking companies I talked to said they want a new outer loop. Just like San Antonio, just like Houston, just like Nashville, Cincinnati, Louisville, just like all the other major cities. Again, there's not one city in America successfully that grows inward. All cities grow out. They expand. 100,000 cars and trucks more downtown for NAFTA. It's inconceivable. Pence has to pay back his campaign debt. They're also saying right here, it'll benefit Indiana. Down here, it talks about it will generate $3.5 billion in additional personal income for Hoosiers. They're also saying $3.5 billion. How? Somebody tell me how. We've already told St. Francis you're not allowed to build a hospital, so no hospitals are coming. We've already told Walmart you're not allowed to build. We've already told Bass Pro you're not allowed to build. Who's going to build down here? Honda, Ford, GM, Subaru, they've all built elsewhere, north. They're not going to have secondary plants down here. This is all to pay off Mike Pence's debt. We can't allow it. Indiana will never recover from the $6 billion. If you go ahead and you don't put in that second loop, you put everything on one loop, there's no room for any businesses left on 465, whether you make it 5 lanes or 10 lanes. This is just absolute madness. All righty, we're going to pick up here. We're going to talk about Mike Pence's friends. We're going to talk about how the swamp works. Mike Pence's friends, and those of us that are not Mike Pence's friends. One business on 37, soon to be 69, maybe not, is going to get a private road for $55 million. Not Mike Pence's friends. We have 2 schools that will be cut off from the highway. They will lose all emergency access. We have 22 businesses that will be cut off. I've already showed you the chart where 11. They're going to go out of business, 22 businesses. So the one guy can have a private road. I'll explain that in a second. There are 2 mega churches that will be cut off, and St. Francis Hospital canceled a brand new hospital. For 7 years, they spent millions of dollars. They bought the land, paid lawyers, paid engineers. They fought and fought to get building permits, and Mike Pence said no, 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 and no. Here's a great stat. Let's start right here with St. Francis Hospital. Everybody needs to hear this. The American Medical Association had a survey. They determined that for every 1 extra minute it takes a heart attack victim or a stroke victim to get to the hospital, for every 1 extra minute, 10,000 Americans die every year. Mr. President, St. Francis was supposed to go right here. This is where my hospital is, and north of me there's 22 businesses that are all going to go bankrupt. This one business on the other side of the highway, he gets the private $55 million road. St. Francis would have been with this church here, this church, and there's 2 schools that are cut off, but they're right here on the outside of this map. 2 schools, 2 churches, 22 businesses, all would have been within a minute to a minute and a half of a hospital. The hospital's not there now. How many people are going to die because these exits are cut off? St. Francis will never build there. No businesses will ever build here because now you got to go all the way 1.5 miles north and come down a 1-lane road. The schools, remember Florida? We had a shooting in Florida. We had a shooting in Texas. We had a shooting in Noblesville, didn't we? We also have tornadoes. We also have school fires and emergencies. Mike Pence has decided that we're going to cut off all these businesses. We're going to cut off not only a hospital there, but we're not going to let any emergency vehicles come and go up there. Really? How many people have to die before we realize that's the most asinine thing you've ever heard? Why are we going to put a private road right there, that's what that yellow line is, on this side of the highway? You see this river right here? I tried to buy this property. Here's my hospital. For 10 cents on the dollar, I could have bought this property here, but I wasn't allowed because this is the 100-year and 500-year floodplain. No commercial buildings are allowed to be on this side of the highway. It's a federal law. So why in the world are we putting a private road on this side? Because that's where Mike Pence wanted it. Mike Pence wants to put one of those 20-foot walls all the way up here to block everybody's view. And he wants a private frontage road over here. I just can't understand the logic. We're losing a hospital. We're losing all the jobs that should be in all these businesses. And one guy, oh, did I mention he's an elected official and friends of Mike Pence? Interesting. Mr. President, I'd really like you to look at all this. Even if you decided you still want to put all the 100,000 cars and trucks more downtown, you could still put the highway right up here. Build the road up so it's not in the floodplain. Keep this highway as your frontage road and allow all these businesses to prosper. Why not do that? Sounds logical. How many billions of dollars is it going to take to tear out the current road and put the federal rock that's needed underneath it? The current rock isn't good enough. We need federal rock. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already. That's why they got to tear this whole thing out and tear all 465 out. That's why it's in the billions of dollars. Instead of tearing out this road that exists, keep it, use it. People are prospering from it. They've already paid for it. Why tear out something that's perfectly good? Why not just put your new highway right over here and take these baseball diamonds, put them here, take the mulch place, put it here, take the farm, put it here. That's all you got to do. There's plenty of room. Look at, there is nothing here. They won't listen to us. They won't talk to us because the money has already been paid to Mike Pence by all his people. St. Francis isn't allowed to build. 2 mega churches are cut off. 22 businesses will go out of business. 2 schools are cut off. School shootings, fires, other emergencies, no highway access. Thank you, Mike Pence. However, one business in the middle of a floodplain gets a private $55 million road. Somebody's got to explain that to me. Somebody's got to explain that to me. So there is good news. We're going to switch right over to here. What should we do? Actually, I'm going to kind of sneak over here and stand between these two. What should we do? Governor Mitch Daniels. Look at that pretty picture right there. My man Mitch. He was governor for 8 years. He brought Indiana back. He was fabulous. He said we should build the outer loop. It'll be cheaper because we're not tearing anything out. We're just going on a farmland. Let's talk about the farmers. They're mad at me right this second. Can't tear our farms, can't tear our farms. Fox News reported 1,000 1,000 family farms went bankrupt last year. They can't afford the millions of dollars of farm equipment to compete with the giant corporate farms. So if we buy their property and pay them top dollar, they can buy equipment. Our city can grow out. Everybody wins. And Mr. President, isn't that good? Everybody wins. The city wins. The people win. Taxes go up. We're not destroying. We're building. Personally, I think that's what we need to do. It will also be faster to build. The farmers win. It's cheaper. It's faster. We keep the jobs that already exist. How important is that? We want to wait another 29 years for more jobs to come in? Why get rid of the current jobs we already have by telling 22 businesses they got to go? That, by the way, that's just one small section of the highway. There's 26 miles that we're talking about. We didn't have the time to go over all that, so we're just talking about that one little section. We create a new economic corridor. Look at San Antonio. I don't want anybody to go anyplace else. It is marvelous. Those people are geniuses. We will make money. We won't lose money. We'll create jobs. We won't lose jobs. We'll help our farmers. We'll give them top dollar. They'll be able to sell to other businesses or keep what property they have left, buy new equipment, and stay competitive in their industry. Cities grow outward. They don't grow inward. We'll give the trucking companies what they really want, an outer loop. When you look at really what's happening here with the secondary loop, what Mitch Daniels recommended, we're coming from Evansville, we're hitting this, we're coming around, we're hitting 65 faster access to Louisville, to Cincinnati, to Columbus, to Fort Wayne. If you still want to go to St. Louis, you can pop over there. And still you'll have access to downtown if you choose. Everybody wins. There is not one losing scenario. And if every other major city in America is doing it and they're prospering, why shouldn't we look at what they're doing? Why should we listen to what Bill Clinton said in 1993? How many other politicians are talking about this? Did any of the Republicans talk about this? Did the Democrat talk about this? They all have their hands in that NAFTA pie. They all want that corrupt money coming into them. Again, I'm paying for everything myself. That's why this is a homemade video. You can also ask Comcast and everybody else why they wouldn't shoot it for us. The trucking companies want it. It gets us point A to point B. Again, look at San Antonio. The new businesses created there, SeaWorld, theme parks, hospitals, water parks, sports parks, malls, colleges. It's an absolute win-win-win for everybody. Mike Pence, the head swamp rat. I don't think anybody questions that anymore. NAFTA rat extraordinaire. Mount Hushmore, power corrupts. We have to bring politicians in. Term limits. The one thing I don't say enough is that I will serve one term as United States Senator, 6 years. I will never run for office again. Period. It's what our founding fathers wanted. They did not want kings and queens. Again, we know Pence was in power for 16 years. Everything he did was a failure. It's unbelievable. All these horrible people got away with it until a point. Then what did we have? We had a whistleblower who stopped them all. I believe that's what I am. I'm a whistleblower. Pence can fill up a swamp. He wants nothing better than Donald Trump to be gone. He will reestablish the swamp and return the status quo. We can't have more criminals. We can't have RICO violations. We can't be the human trafficking headquarters of Indiana. We have to save these Chinese children and Hispanic children and South American children. They cannot continue to be slaves in Indiana. Mike Braun, talking to you. If you really are going to be the Republican you say you want to be, you need to contact me. I'm not going to stop my campaign in July. I'm supposed to have 27,000 signatures. I'm staying on until November. I'll be the write-in candidate. People are going to find out that there's one Republican in the race, one true conservative, one Ronald Reagan, John Kennedy man, and that's me. We no longer want to be a sanctuary city, and we want this man stopped. And we want the swamp cleared out, just like Donald Trump promised. If you elect me as your senator, no one's going to fight harder for that. God bless Indiana, and God bless America. Hi, John Piper, independent candidate, United States Senate from Indiana. Just want to take just 30 seconds here and ask everybody to fill out the Can 19. Everybody knows that I need 27,000 signatures. You can take this to work, you can take it to the ball game, you can take it to restaurants. Anywhere you can get a lot of people to fill it out. They have to be Hoosiers and they have to be registered voters. This is the key to making sure that we can drain the swamp. The Republicans and Democrats don't want a third party. Bernie Sanders was the third party. A lot of people like Bernie Sanders. What we need is choice. We can't just be restricted by the two parties that believe they're kings and queens. We can change it. I need your help. We have a lot. We need a lot more. We still have 3 more weeks to get this in. It's the Can 19. If you go onto my website, you can download it from there. There's instructions. Throw a stamp on it, get the signatures on it, and send it. We can do this. Just think about what is going on, what we've discussed in all our other videos. If you're unhappy with the Democrat, you're unhappy with the Republican, and you truly want your taxes lower, you want human trafficking stopped, you want the drugs stopped, you want the politicians that are nothing but swamp rats, I'm the only guy. I'm the only candidate for the United States Senate. More importantly than anything else, I won't stay. I'll serve 6 years, self-imposed. You have my word, I'll sign a contract if need be. I will serve 1 term as senator, and I'll never go back. Our founding fathers didn't want kings and queens. Please go to my website, find the Can 19, fill it out, and send it in. God bless America. God bless Indiana.